Hi there, Mr. Ray here again. Welcome back to another Paint.net tutorial. Today's lesson we're going to learn about layers. Layers is just another way of saying stacking things on top of each other. But you do so in such a way that it doesn't prevent you from deleting or making mistakes on something that you want to keep. So say I want to make a picture. Let's start off with, say, a man walking down the street. Okay, so I'll start by drawing my man. Oh, I have him in brown or in blue, pardon me. So I'm going to change that and I'm going to change it to black. Alright, so I've got my man here, drawing him out, and we'll say he's whistling a little tune. Okay, and just for fun, let's give him a little bit of hair. Let's say some brown hair. I'll shrink my brush just a little bit, and so I don't go too far off. There we go. Little bit of hair. And to make sure it's nice and full, I'll just fill it. Okay, looks like my brush is a little bit too small, so I'll just use my paint tool. Alright, so I have my little man, and let's say he's walking on a sidewalk. Well, instead of putting a sidewalk directly underneath him and having to draw all the way around his legs, what I can do is I can add another layer. So I'll go under layer in the menus, in the layers menu, add new layer, and you see right here how it pops up above background. Now I have a layer. So if I deselect background entirely, I will just have my layer 2 that's visible. So to make sidewalk, I will take my rectangle tool, and right now I'm in brown, so let's select, say, gray, and I'll draw a nice big rectangle. Okay, so I've got a rectangle, and I'll fill it with some gray, and to make some lines, I'll choose my line tool. My brush width is 3, okay, that's pretty good. And let's say, instead of going for the solid line, which should be your default, I'll click on dashes. I'll just make some lines down here. Oh, no, I can't because I'm in gray. There we go. And black. Typically they're not black, but this is just for an example to show you guys. Okay, so I have myself a sidewalk. And enter, deselect it. As soon as I turn my background back on, watch what happens. My background becomes on top of my man. And I want my background to be the last thing that's seen. So what I'll do is I'll actually move my background down and I'll deselect all of this white space. So I'll take my magic wand tool, click. Oh no, it's selecting the upper layer because look, layer 2 is selected. So I'll click on my background and I'll try that again. And then delete. Ah, there we go. Okay, so now that I have all my background deleted, I can see both layers at the same time. Say I wanted to add a sun. I'll take my elliptical tool, make sure I have a nice strong yellow. Choose the background that's not going to have any changes to it. We'll say the man. And I'll draw myself a nice big golden sun. And then I'll just fill it with some yellow. There we go. Alright, now we're getting somewhere. Now say you wanted a blue sky. Instead of taking my fill tool, changing it to blue, and then filling everything, because you guys can't really see everything here. Instead of doing that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another layer and then fill that layer. So I'll go layer, add new layer, now I'm in layer 3. So if I turn off layer 2 and my background, I'm left with layer 3. So I'm going to take my background, my paint bucket, and I'm going to fill. There we go. Alright, now if I turn them back on, all you see is blue. So what I need to do, I'm going to reorder it so the blue goes to the very back. There we go. Okay, that looks a lot better. Now if I wanted grass, let's say, grass coming out from, say, down here and up here. Okay, say there's a lawn. Okay, To make things easy, I'll make another layer. And so that I know I'm only working with my grass, I'm going to turn off all of my other layers so they're not visible. I'm going to go back to my layer 4, pick myself a nice green. That looks like a nice grassy green. Paintbrush, 3. Okay, that's pretty good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to go above my sidewalk right here. Now I'll probably miss, but that's quite okay. So I'll just draw some nice grass, very thick grass. And we'll say that'll be its base. Okay, I'll just fill it and fill up here. Oh, I can't see it too well, a little too small. And paintbrush again. There we go. Now the reason I have all these little white lines here is because my actual paintbrush was so small that when I did my up and down lines like that, I overcrossed some of them. And what I did was I actually created myself a white space. So we'll say that's about good. Okay, and we'll just leave it like that. If I zoom back out, and I want to turn my other layers back on, I'll just click them so that I can see them. And we will see that I'm way off from my mark. Okay, so what can I do? I'll turn off the layers I don't want to see. And we don't want to see the blue either. Okay, and now I have my grass and my sidewalk. So if I click on my grass layer, and I choose my select tool, as long as I have my grass selected, I can even go over the sidewalk. Because what happens is, when I use my move tool, which is the one right beside the select tool, I can move anything on this layer. And because the sidewalk's not actually selected on this layer, if I move it, ta-da, you can't actually see it. Pretty nifty. But there's something else I want to do with this. So once I have it behind my sidewalk, I'm going to copy it. Okay, I'm going to press enter so it releases it. I'm going to turn off my layer for my sidewalk. I'm going to paste a new one, edit, paste. There you go, now I have a new one. You see how it also copied the background there? Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to reverse it. There, now it's its mirror image. And if I bring it down, say back down to here, now I'll have grass on this side. If I turn it back on, you see how it cuts it off? I have stuff in there. So what I'll have to do is I'll have to cut it out. Not a big deal. So I think for the moment what I will do is I will just delete that part, go back into my, oh no. Do you know what I did? I erased the whole item, thereby cutting off my lawn. So what I'll have to do is take it off with my history by clicking on it, move it above. Oh, it looks like I'll have to go back a bit. There we go. Okay, now I will delete it from down here. Okay, yes, now that I'm on a different layer. And what I'll do is I'll make myself a little box and just paint it green. And fill. And there we go. That is why you absolutely love the history button, because you can always take off things without rearranging your whole schematic. Okay, so if I turn it back on, turn my background back on, and my little man back on, there he goes. He's walking down. Now if I add, say, some clouds, I can take another layer, image, layer, add new layer. Now I'm on layer 5. Okay, so I take my paint tool, select my white as my primary, and as I'm drawing some clouds, la 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 la, I can then fill it with white. Okay, and if I wanted to, because it's the only layer that's selected, I can go back to my move tool and move the entire layer, and only my clouds will move. But you see, because I'm behind my sun, it's 2 layers above it, I can actually go like so. Ta-da! So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit enter to select that. I'm going to go back to my background picture. And now that I'm in my background picture, this is actually a very cool feature. If you can't remember which color you chose previously, what you can do is use this thing called the color picker. You will select something, and then all of a sudden, that picture magically comes up into your selection box. Okay, so now that I'm there, I'll go back to some lines, and oh, you know what, maybe not lines. Yeah, sure, a couple lines. I'll give myself a couple lines, a little bit of raise, and go back into my paintbrush. And there we go. Now I have clouds and rays, and if I want to add, I don't know, say some birds, I go to my clouds layer, layer 5, and I would add some birds. I'm really bad at birds, so we'll just say caw caw. There we go. He's got some seagulls. And there you have it. Just like that, I was able to make myself a nice landscape picture with paint.net, and I didn't have to zoom in to an extraneous amount and paint all around all my little pixels. That is the quick way, and I hope you learned a lot. We'll see you next time on paint.net tutorials. Ta-ta for now.